Bush family now heading to the motorcade, which will start up Pennsylvania Avenue past the White House up to Washington National Cathedral. As we saw that beautiful ceremony here at the Capitol, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the official honor guard as well. Military executing it so well, Michael Duffy, but one of the other things that all presidents share, helping plan their funerals.
Yes, George, and it begins long before they leave the White House. Very early on in the presidency, the U.S. Military District of Washington, the outfit you mentioned earlier, spends time with the president and his family, or her family, to plan these events. Some of it is dictated by tradition. Some of it is up to interpretation by the family as to where they want some of the pieces to take place, who comes, obviously, and down to the details of music and prayers. But it can take a president months to work this out. And when they're done, it's usually a set of 4 or 5 very large binders ready to go. And of course, the Military District of Washington practices this annually. And I'm struck watching it, George, that this is a ritual full of pomp and circumstance that is, as much as it is for George Herbert Walker Bush today, it's really about the presidency itself. It's an office that the founders created and we take care of and nurture, and while it's powerful, it is also delicate and fragile, and it has to be minded. And this is one of the ways we do it, and it's quite a public moment for the military as well.
Transcends any individual in the office. Let's listen to George H.W. Bush talking about planning his funeral.
Almost the minute you become president, you are pestered to put into writing your funeral arrangements. I wrote this note to Patty Presock, my right-hand person in the Oval Office, to add to my funeral file.
June 10, 1991. To Patty. My burial instructions. Addenda. I want the song Last Full Measure of Devotion sung by a good male soloist at any church or memorial service. Gravestone. The plain stones we see at Arlington. I would like my Navy number on the back of it. I believe it is 0173464. Also on the stone, in addition to what I already requested, he loved Barbara very much.
He got the singer as well. Ronan Tynan will sing at the National Cathedral later today. But that's a reminder as well, Cokie Roberts. Of course, the president is going to be buried at Texas A&M. These plans subject to revision.
Completely. I was at Hugh Sidey's funeral, the longtime correspondent here. Hugh Sidey was originally supposed to be one of George Bush's eulogists. And when George Bush stood up at his funeral and gave his eulogy, he said, "This is all backwards. He's supposed to be doing this for me." And then he said, "I'm not going to be able to get through this." And he started to give it, and he said, "Doro, you have to finish it."
And she stepped in right there.
She stepped in.
We see Hillary Clinton there. She'll be, of course, at the service as well. One of the reasons Mark Updegrove, of course, it has to change, is that it turned out that President Bush, as we see Bill Clinton, Jimmy Carter there as well, Vice President Mike Pence. George H.W. Bush had a long post-presidency, a long and fulfilling one.
Yeah, he did. He left office, of course, in 1993 and has come perilously close to death in the last several years. I think what sustained him, George, was family. When I saw him in Kennebunkport over the summer, and no one thought he would get to Kennebunkport, by the way, let alone back to Houston, where he passed away. They talked about how sustaining his family was. What a balm it was to him to see family in Kennebunkport.
As we talk about family, David Muir at the National Cathedral. Of course, the whole family knew that when they lost Barbara Bush earlier this year, that would be such a blow to the president.
They knew it would be a blow, and they also knew that their grandfather likely knew that it would not be long before he was reunited with his beloved Barbara, who, by the way, he met at a Christmas dance before he left to serve in World War II. But one of the things that we've heard so much about in these last few days was the remarkable relationship that he had with his grandchildren. Obviously, at 17, 8 great-grandchildren, and we learned today that 2 of his grandchildren, who were really in the public eye, of course, Jenna and Barbara, who grew up in the White House with George W. Bush and their mother Laura, of course, that they have seen the eulogy that their father will deliver here at the National Cathedral behind me in Washington, and that their father asked them for their input, and they offered some suggestions. They described that it's difficult to express just how much you love someone, and that will be the real challenge for their father today. They said the other challenge, quite frankly, and you all mentioned that earlier, that this is a family of weepers, and many of us here in this country are grateful they are, but that the other challenge will be for their father to keep it together in front of this cathedral here today. And George, we've seen other people arrive here. President Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton being embraced by Michelle Obama just moments ago, and perhaps this is a sort of posthumous service to the country from George Herbert Walker Bush, that he was able to get this moment of unity in such a divided time. So many people here already at the cathedral, George.
And we're